Hi, this is Peter Propp, and welcome to another episode of 10 Minute Strategy. We are here today with my friend Michael Liebow, who is the founder and CEO of Foretuit. And Foretuit, I describe very quickly, is in the business of sandbag detection and sales pipeline discovery. So, Michael, why don't you give your description of it? I'm sure it's much more detailed.
I'm sure I'm not going to say that, but Foretuit has an opportunity to really lead the market in social business analytics. It's a new field, really tied to initially around sales engagement. So you think about it, when sales reps accept a lead and they work that lead, they do work it. There's not a lot of sandbagging per se. Where the sandbagging, I think, comes in is where the data that provides, I'll say, evidence of a deal being worked doesn't get into the CRM.
Right.
And that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about understanding, what's happening around a deal, because there's a whole set of politics and process and culture built up around sales pipeline management. So Foretuit is providing the notions of foresight and intuition and taking individual knowledge and I'll say it, institutionalizing it.
Right.
So taking that knowledge, that best practice, and capturing it and putting it into a form and fashion that the enterprise can now leverage. So it's this whole opportunity around social business analytics and social enterprise. And it's a hot new area. It's the next turn of the crank around this whole social craze.
Right. So I know you run on top of or in conjunction with Salesforce, and you also run against the end user's Outlook platform. So why don't you talk a little bit about the way you complement both Salesforce and leverage Outlook?
Sure. Well, two very different animals. If you think about it, Salesforce is a great example of a cloud-based, SaaS-enabled CRM platform. And so our focus was to look at CRM as being the platform or system of record. And so where do you put those leads, all right, or those opportunity records? And,
right.
and I don't want to say they're a static database, but by and large, that's what's in a CRM today is the opportunity, the company name, the customers, the size of the opportunity, the assumed close date, and that's the information that you would see in a typical CRM. But the information you wouldn't see is all of the activities, the emails, the phone calls, the contact names, the attachments, the proposals, the presentations. And so there's a huge effort going on in terms of how to make that real, how to get customers to or reps to put that information in, because why? So that the rest of the enterprise, management, finance, manufacturing, procurement, all the up and downstream departments and functions have some clue about what's going on in sales and can
right.
forecast and manage their business. So that's Salesforce. Salesforce has about 12% of the CRM market. And when you combine them with Microsoft, SAP, Oracle, you're talking about roughly 50% of the CRM market. But Salesforce, great partner, love being one of their ISV Force members, and very excited about the potential of that relationship. They are definitely the hottest CRM out there today. And Mark Benioff is a huge champion of this whole notions around social enterprise.
Right.
So that's the first part of your question.
Yep.
Second part was Outlook.
Right.
So if you think about the workhorse, what people use in terms of leveraging a deal, it's email. They use the phone. They'll use other types of communications, whether it's perhaps Twitter, perhaps Facebook, or text messaging, SMS, or phone logs. But we started with emails being the workhorse, because even after a phone call, a good rep is gonna respond to the customer and say, well, this is what we discussed, and these are the next steps, and do the follow through. And so by taking that information that's not in Salesforce, but embodied in the email. We're capturing that and looking for patterns of interaction between the rep and the deal team within the company, as well as with the customer and their decision committee. And so if you look at those patterns of interaction for any kind of a direct seller, you'll get an early indication of how far and how fast the deal is progressing.
Right.
And so Outlook and Salesforce are those two key primary channels.
So this is something I haven't thought about before, but would it ever work that a rep, because their data is being sort of scanned by Foretuit, that information pops up, and then that information about who they're working with would flow into Salesforce as the system that's tracking the actual opportunity?
Right. So you got it. So the notion there, and I'll call it round-tripping data.
Right.
And so what you want to do is, on one hand, pull in the opportunity record, the emails, the calendar, the address book, the phone logs. You want to suck all of that information into Foretuit.
Right.
But now you have the opportunity to round trip contact information back into the CRM or other systems of record. Mm-hmm. That's a huge opportunity. Now, we don't do that yet. When you start to kind of venture into that space of round tripping data, you're talking about greater levels of integration.
Right.
And so what we want to do is be able to toe into the market. That's our notion. There's a lot of being written and talked about today around the notions of lean startup.
Yep.
And in notions of minimally viable product. And so, how do you start to get into the market, start to work with customers and partners, show them, kind of what you can do, how you can do it. And then, we're very focused on progressing our roadmap in essentially 2-week sprints and adding feature function. And so over the next 3 months, we'll make significant progress towards that end. But think about it. On average, when a rep onboards into Foretuit, we see about 250 opportunities come in with roughly 5,000 contacts. Now, I can tell you with a great degree of confidence that none of those contacts, or very few, are actually in the CRM.
Right.
So the ability now to put those contacts into the CRM, huge opportunity and a lot of value for customers.
Right. So Michael, we've got about 2 minutes left. How can people engage with you? Right now, the solution is free. Is that right?
Absolutely. So customers have two options. They can go to the Salesforce App Exchange. We were listed back in June in the Salesforce App Exchange, and just recently listed in the new mobile App Exchange that was announced about a week or two ago. Mm-hmm. And one of the few of, I guess, a handful of Salesforce partners that got listed, and that's our iPad app. And so if you want to run it, you just go in, you set up a test drive. If you like how the test drive is working and like the visualizations and the information, a lot of HTML5 eye candy, we've been told. If you take that and then want to deploy that in your Salesforce, it's very easy to go literally invite, just like you were linking with friends on, colleagues on LinkedIn or friends on Facebook. You invite these people in. And it takes them literally an hour or so to set up, not even, just a few minutes. Hardest part is putting your Salesforce security token in. But once you're set up, we pull in the data from your desktop to our back end. We populate the app, send you an email, and voila, you're up and running.
Why don't you?
So those are the two opportunities.
Excellent. Before we go, why don't we just take people through the scenario that I've heard you talk about a few times with the patterns that you see in the sales cycle, and like when someone should be talking to the attorney and things like that. Because I think that might be a great example of the sort of modeling data that you can get just sort of passively to really improve the way a business sells.
Right. Well, think about, in the absence of knowing, organizations construct a whole discipline selling methodology around sales process. And what they do is they create these kind of artificial lines to define where you are in the selling cycle or sales cycle. And so, have you validated the opportunity? And, have you identified the key individuals, the buyer and whatnot? Have you proposed something? Where in that cycle? If you think about it, there's a pattern of interaction in the company side, within the deal team, to where that opportunity might be. Who are you engaging with within the company? Is there a product specialist or a sales engineer who you're working with? Early on, that would be indicative of kind of the early types of information gathering and farming or hunting. Later on, once you've got perhaps a term sheet or a contract, you're dealing with a whole different set of individuals within the deal team. Could be finance, could be lawyers, could be management. And what's happening there is that people are interacting. And so, for example, if you hit the lawyer 5 times, not literally hit, maybe you might want to, but if you're engaging, I'll say it that way, engaging with the lawyer 5 times this week, well, it might be a good indication that so it's not about what was said, but it's about who you're saying it to and how.
Right.
That could be a good indication that you have a deal that's about to close.
Right.
And so you wouldn't know that, and moreover, you wouldn't know that the lawyer was then kind of taking your notes and kind of copying and broadcasting that to other people. And so you don't see the kind of the outer ring of activity. You might see the inner ring if you're the rep.
And it's less about you, the rep, as it is your boss and your boss's boss, who now that data is now exposed to, right?
Right. Well, so it's that individual data that's being now captured and institutionalized and made known, transparent, and visible to management. You got to work it at both ends. You have to create an opportunity for the rep to gain value from having this application, as well as giving management that value in terms of better managing the pipeline and the reps involved.
Excellent. Well, I think that's the perfect place to stop. Michael, thanks so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Peter. It's always great.
Excellent. Good luck.
Thank you.